Europe, an amazing array of countries, cities, and some of the world's best nights out. This program will discover the liveliest, the weirdest, and the most daring nights out Europe has to offer. Every summer, 1 million people seeking the hottest club life head for Ibiza. This island off the coast of Spain, just 25 miles long, lives to party. There are hundreds of nightclubs, but the most famous or infamous is Manumission. Its reputation is built on spectacular entertainment to drive the partygoers wild.
We have so many entertainers in Manumission. We have everything from strippers, dwarfs, drag queens.
The new Manumission Flying Squad, which is a whole aerialist team of professional. They've been working in theatre and performance for a long time.
Every summer, Manumission comes up with a different theme for its Monday night party extravaganzas. Once, it was a live sex show. Now, it's a stunning display by the De La Guardia aerobatic dance troupe.
Most things we do aren't designed to make 8,000 people gasp. Most things we do are designed to make 8 people gasp. We designed the club in a way that most people come away with a very different experience.
It's pretty much like the biggest night, man, that's here, and it's the only English night that you can't get back in the UK that's specifically on the island. So half the English kids and half the people from around Europe come to the island just to see Manumission.
Right.
It's just for that purpose. And if anything, they'll at least save their money to go to the Manumission night.
English vacationers Sarah and Donna are on a tight budget, but Manumission is the one club night they wouldn't miss.
It's the only club you actually go to and you get your money's worth. You get like you actually do get properly entertained, and there's people on stilts and people dressed as birds.
There's shops in there, there's swimming pool, there's bridges. Everyone's just crazy.
Clothes, everyone's just mad.
Manumission's remarkable party nights attract a big crowd, more than 8,000 clubbers.
We're definitely the busiest night out in Ibiza, so hopefully that's a reflection of, the fact that people want to come and see it.
Amongst our peers, the other people in the same sort of business, a lot of people think we are the most successful and we are the best, and I don't know. I hope so.
We just got in the Guinness Book of Records as being the biggest weekly party in the world.
We're not just an English or a Spanish or whatever party, we really are, we hope, an Ibiza party that's reflective of what's happening here.
The club's reputation has spread around the world, and this one night out is the reason many choose their vacation on this party island. If all-night debauchery isn't your style, perhaps some pagan ritual is. Edinburgh, Scotland, and an even more amazing and bizarre celebration. On a hill high above the city, one night every spring, is the Beltane Fire Festival. This is a party where it seems no one knows what to expect.
We really didn't find out anything. We just wanted to climb Calton Hill tonight and everyone was here.
I've been here 10 years and I don't know anything about Beltane, because this is the first time I've actually been up here to see it.
Well, we're looking in the Edinburgh listings to find out what was going on this evening, and we noticed there was this Beltane procession, and that's really just about everything I know about it.
The festival's roots are in a mystic pagan ceremony. It was revived 13 years ago and celebrates the start of summer as it was in ancient times. Drummers and torchbearers lead a procession around the hill. The May Queen and an army of warrior women with dramatically painted bodies bring summer to the elements of fire, earth, and water. It's an awesome spectacle of color and energy, and continues late into the night with a blazing fire display. Performers become human torches, spinning dangerously and delighting the crowds. Edinburgh's wildest night ends with an army of near-naked red men storming the hillside. Their painted bodies symbolize passion, and the performance ends in a frenzied sexual dance. But if this is one of Europe's weirdest parties, one of the biggest has to be in Paris, France. It's not enjoying the nighttime views from the top of the Eiffel Tower or any of the more predictable tourist spots. Every Friday night, the biggest crowds are here in downtown. The offices may be closed, but thousands of young Parisians are on the street, preparing for a massive, high-energy party. They got their invitations and found out where to meet by logging on to an internet website only this afternoon. They still don't know exactly where they're going, but what is certain is that tonight, these rollerbladers will bring Paris to a standstill and force the police to close the city streets.
The highest attendance, which was last year, was 28,000. As soon as the weather's warm again, you get between 10 and 15,000. This evening, I think we're going to exceed the 10,000 mark, and maybe even hit 12 or 13, because the weather's been good all day.
These amazing nighttime races began with a handful of people 7 years ago. They soon became so popular that the rollerbladers drove the Parisian traffic off the roads. The route is 15 miles long and takes 4 hours. They won't finish until 2 in the morning. Many do it just for a fun night out, but for some, there's a more serious purpose: to campaign for the environment.
It's more about being able to reclaim the streets from the cars. Driving around town, people don't get much out of their city, whereas people on rollerblades really get to see it. They hear their city, they feel it, they realise that Paris isn't flat. It's a pleasant city, but to appreciate it, you have to be on rollerblades or on foot.
Others have yet another reason for joining the party. It's a great way to meet the opposite sex.
Yeah, it's a good way to meet some friends and to meet some also girls for boy and boy for girls. Because it's a new freedom, it's a new mentality, it's a new way of life also. Then that's why.
This party night can have its ups and downs. So a fleet of ambulances trails the rollerbladers. Every week, about 5 of them will end up in hospital with broken limbs. Despite all the organization, the rollerbladers still create havoc, and parts of Paris will come to a standstill. For those who can't stand the pace, there's always a cafe to sit it out.
It lasts something like 3 or 4 hours, so it's too much when you're not used to. So 2 hours for us is far enough.
Maybe they'll be back next Friday night, when rollerbladers will take over the streets again. After the break, more of the world's best nights out in the company of Madonna, Jack Nicholson, Mel Gibson, and John Travolta. Who are the best people to ask about the world's best nights out? Why, they're stars, of course. And no one knows more about celebrity hangouts than the paparazzi. London-based photographer Mark Saunders spent years in the press pack trailing the every move of Princess Diana. And he still has his sights set on the biggest names out on the town.
Obviously, scandal sells. So if you can get, I don't know, some major star out with someone he shouldn't be out with, going home or something with them and spending the night, that's scandal. And for some reason, people love that sort of thing.
Saunders' nighttime vigil begins at around 9 o'clock and continues into the early hours. He tours the likely hotspots, peering through windows to stalk his victims.
I reckon that's a blonde chick here.
Other leads come from his network of sources.
Contact can be a valet parker or a maitre d', taxi driver, limo driver. Even, beggars on the streets can, for some reason they all have mobile phones these days.
Princess Diana's favorite restaurant, San Lorenzo, is still one of Saunders' main hangouts, along with celebrity restaurant The Ivy and trendy bars.
Madonna tends to be the most popular target in London because she does like to go out. But any of the visited American stars will always head to places like San Lorenzo or The Ivy. Cindy Crawford loves The Ivy for some reason. I mean, I've seen Pacino, Hoffman, they've all sort of been at either the Met or the Atlantic. But it's more the younger crowd. If Leonardo was in town, he would head for the Met, I think. Jack Nicholson doesn't seem to have any favourite restaurant. He's at all of them. I mean, it's impossible with him. We go to places with Jack that I didn't even know existed.
But nobody can miss the existence of London's most famous celebrity nightclub, Stringfellow's. It owes not only its name, but its personality to creator Peter Stringfellow, the self-styled king of clubs. As the star guests can testify, if anyone knows what a good night out is, it's him.
There was a time to come into London where it could be a bit boring. The world's changed. The nightclub scene here is so diverse. You can go into the younger crowd scene for the garage music, which means solid dance music, or you can come to a club such as mine, which is a more adult entertainment, and it is topless entertainment at that.
Not only the stars come out at this nightclub. Stringfellow imported table dancing to London from America. He picked up the idea in the clubs of Miami, but believes he's built on what he first saw there.
But we have taken it that step further, and I think it's the best in the world. But the Americans understand the concept. They understand it's beautiful girls dancing, they understand it's a fantasy, there's no taking the girls home. We also love the Americans because they're the best tippers in the world.
Stringfellows opened in 1980. It stands out from other London nightclubs, not only as the longest running, but because it combines adult entertainment with dancing, dining, and of course, that celebrity guest list. A complete night here costs around $75. But for that, Stringfellow promises a night to remember.
When you come into London, you come into Stringfellows, not only can we compete, one who was looking for the best night out in their life, we very nearly guarantee it.
And what makes him so sure of that guarantee?
Hey, I'm surrounded by 85 beautiful girls taking their clothes off. I mean, how can you beat that?
But just in case Stringfellows isn't your perfect party night, here's another idea. The chimneys of an old power station may not seem the best venue for a night out. They loom over London's Battersea Park, where party organizer Neil Dutson is out to prove he can tailor-make anyone's dream night out.
Cool, I mean, anytime round 6 is good.
Tonight, he's putting together an amazing charity dinner for 370 people. But he's already arranged private parties for the British royal family and a long list of glitzy events for the rich and famous.
We tailor-make all sorts of events for anyone, from a dinner for 10 people right through to a romantic evening in Monte Carlo for 1,000, right up to 3,000-4,000 corporately. A lot of people come to me and say, right, Neil, we want to have our own party at home or in a particular venue. We want to create the best night out. We want to create the best evening. Therefore, it's my job to come up with the fun ideas, the staff being dressed in a different way, perhaps. They're greeted. We manage the guests when they arrive, so we take them right through the party. It's an experience.
For this party, Dutson's brought a taste of Africa to London.
It was a charity event and we literally had a few palm trees. It was sort of walk into a sort of a jungle feel. Lots of very sexy lighting, made it look really pretty. We also had lots of entertainment going on, like bungee running, casinos, just fun little things for a charitable event, as well as a few vodka luges, which, as you know, are iced torsos with vodka poured down, and the women drink from the men and the men drink from the women, and that sort of raised a few eyebrows and threw a few people.
The party is a great success, but for Dutson, organizing the best night out to rival any that Europe has to offer is all in a night's work. Coming up, a feast of the best places to eat out and the most demanding of guides, an off-duty chef.
No, not yet. I'm not yet. Put them down, you'll cool them down too quickly.
Some of the world's best food comes from Europe. The gastronomic delights of French cuisine, delicious Italian dishes, and traditional English favorites. London has the coolest restaurants, but with over 6,000, the choice of where to spend a night out can be bewildering. Rules is the city's oldest restaurant. Set up in 1798, this is where to come for quintessential English cuisine. Famous patrons have included playwright Noel Coward and Britain's wartime leader Winston Churchill. And Queen Victoria's son, King Edward VII, used to be a regular.
This was his favourite dining spot with Lily Langtry, who was then his mistress. The owners at that time actually cut a special door into the wall so that they had his own private entrance and exit.
From London's oldest restaurant to one of the newest. The Birdcage is an Oriental restaurant with a unique style of presentation and decor.
We did it all ourselves, we painted all the walls ourselves and made all the cushions ourselves. It's meant to be fun, which means fine dining can be fun, and you don't have to sort of sit there and worry if you're going to drop your spoon on the floor or something like that.
Owner Chef Michael von Ruschka learned his craft in Thailand and offers customers a fusion of Oriental and Western dishes to create a unique dining experience. Just around the corner is a French restaurant with a twist. There are no prices on the menu, so customers pay whatever they think the food is worth, which raises an obvious question.
Everybody pays fair. You might get a few people will pay a little bit less, but on the other side you got some other customers will pay a bit more, and at the end of the night it's all come nice.
In fact, far from losing money, the restaurant seems to gain. They normally expect around $30 a head, but customers, worried about looking mean, are often embarrassed into paying over the odds. These two diners have ended up paying more than double the real value of their meal. But where do top chefs go when they have a night out? This is Gordon Ramsay, famous not only for the restaurant which bears his name, but for a fiery temper.
Why aren't you wiping the plates? Why aren't you wiping the plates?
Any restaurant that impresses a hard taskmaster like Ramsay must be good. His favorite haunt is the New Diamond in London's Chinatown.
It's a very nifty little secret getaway, especially for chefs. It has a very special menu called the chef's menu, which is not really there for the public. Very interesting food, delicate food, beautifully cooked.
Entrees include steamed scallops and crispy seaweed. But with his inside knowledge, Ramsay's choice is the soft-shelled crab.
They're coated in a very light batter and shallow fried, and seasoned again with peppers and red chilies. Sarge, there's a bill to you running around.
For main course, Ramsay and his fellow chefs choose crisp iceberg lettuce filled with marinated mincemeat.
One of my favourite dishes is some wonderful steamed scallops. They're not dredged scallops, they're hand-dived scallops. So they're really nice, fresh, incredibly succulent steamed scallops with ginger, and we're just going to macerate them with a little soy sauce on top. Thank you.
With some sauce for you.
No, not yet, not yet. I'm not yet. Okay. Put them down, you'll cool them down too quickly. We'll put the sauce on. Thank you. Plus you always put too much on there as well.
But even on his night off, Ramsay can't keep out of the kitchen.
I've never actually cooked and always moving it around as well. Okay.
He tries his hand at Singapore noodles. And the verdict?
Thank you. That's delicious. Can I come and spend my day off here? One day. He's not going to shout at me, is he? When he gets upset, does he stick clothes pegs on my nose? Excellent. Chef, thank you very much indeed.
If your idea of a great night out is to skip the food and head straight for the bar, Edinburgh has somewhere to make a noise about. Anyone can call in on the Scotsman's Lounge, but most of those who do play that strangest of old Scottish wind instruments, the bagpipes. Made from sheep's stomachs, which may account for the peculiar groaning noise, the bagpipes are the perfect accompaniment to a drop of Scotch whiskey. After that, hopefully no one notices the racket they make.
Basically, the pipers come in, there's the odd dram, whiskey taken with it. It seems to be synonymous with piping. People get up, play the pipes, play whatever their selection is, and just generally enjoy themselves. And that goes from serious piping down to what we term kitchen piping, which is your odd tunes like the Flintstones and things like that.
But a night here can be more than just listening. Behind the bar is a set of pipes, so anyone can have a try, with a few tips from one of the regulars.
They're quite heavy, so
they blow.
But don't expect to show off on your first night here. It takes years to become an expert, unless you have a little help. Back in London, one of the most remarkable nights out is at another old survivor of pub tradition, the Seabright Arms. Every Thursday night, there's an amazing throwback to the days of vaudeville, hosted by the one and only Dockyard Doris.
One Sunday over the lea, my fella done it to me. Well, he done it once, then he done it twice, and then he had the flipping cheek to say it wasn't nice. It's called Dockyard Doris's Variety Night, but we have comedy, singers, special acts, and it's quite unique. It's worth waiting for, one Sunday over the lea. You wouldn't find this anywhere else in London. Or I think in Great Britain, where they put on a regular variety show every Thursday with no door charge and different acts. The fabulous Mickey Driver! Mickey Driver, we call him Mr. Musical. Wonderful. Because there isn't a song he doesn't know on the musical, and he sings it with such love, which is marvellous.
I've got a little donor, I'm about to own her, she's gonna marry me. At first she said she couldn't, and then she said she wouldn't, and then she answers, you just wait and see.
Do you like the river dance? You do? All right.
Every variety always has to have a special act, and tonight we've got the best, which is Maurice Kachuk. And Maurice Kachuk does a wonderful tap dance, and he is a tap dancer of tremendous talent. And I've worked with him so many times, and each time I just marvel at the dexterity of the feet.
Round we go.
And it's like the old traditional East End pubs used to be years ago, because that's where variety started, in the pubs. Put your hands together and welcome the fabulous Cox twins and Pauline!
Topping tonight's bill are two legendary showbiz veterans, Freddie and Frankie Cox. In their 80th year, the twins have been treading the boards most of their lives.
It's definitely a throwback to the old days. This is variety in its top form.
It's easy to understand why they call this night out variety. Coming up, a night out at the famous Moulin Rouge in Paris. And in Red Light Amsterdam, the strippers who take their clothes off every 10 minutes. An astonishing 100,000 people choose a night out here every night. It's the heart of the red light district in Amsterdam, Holland, packed with brothels and sex shows. And the oldest and most famous sex show of them all is here at the Casa Rosso. Set up in the late 1960s, it offers audiences nights of erotic entertainment. Ticket seller Giovanni's job is to pull in the audience. He can do it in 7 languages.
Disgusting today. Come on, guys. Don't be shy. There are different techniques with different nationalities. Français, monsieur parle français aussi? Alors, monsieur. Italian people will reach them like, if you are from Calabresi, that means it's a kind of city where all Casa Nostra is, you know? And no, we are not Calabresi. Oh, okay, you can go in then, eh? Then you are allowed to go in.
Every night, the Casa Rossa alone attracts more than 1,000 visitors. Live sex runs non-stop until 3 o'clock in the morning. There are 7 acts, 3 female performers, 3 couples, and a male stripper. They have to perform their routines for each of the 5 nightly shows, as the audiences are herded in and out. Male and female spectators are attracted in equal number, but some do more than watch. They volunteer to go on stage and join in. Strippers like Gemma perform 2 different acts, making a total of 10 times a night. After each routine, she has to get dressed, then 10 minutes later, take it all off again.
I see it as a normal job. If you can do it, you can do it. If you can't do it, you cannot do it. And if you want to do it or not, because if you don't want to do it, you have no capability of doing it in the first place.
With her boyfriend watching from the DJ's box, Gemma begins her 2nd act. But exactly what that act is, and the rest of this night out, is for the audience's eyes only. Paris is the modern birthplace of sex on stage, behind the neon lights of the legendary Moulin Rouge. This is where that sexiest of dances, the can-can, was invented back in 1889. When it was first performed, the sight of women kicking up their skirts shocked the world. Rumor has it that 4 years later, this was also where striptease began. Today, the frilly skirts have gone, replaced by glittering silver suits. But some things never change. These outfits come off just the same. Twice a night, the audience gets an eyeful of naked flesh. One of the show's two principal dancers is a 24-year-old American, Michelle Archoe. She was a Las Vegas showgirl before moving here to Paris.
I think being at the Moulin Rouge, it being part of history, people look at it as, wow, you're a dancer, and they put you there up on a pedestal.
Michelle performs in front of 1,200 people every night, but going topless doesn't bother her.
When we're dancing on stage, it's not like we're topless. You know, some of the girls are covered, some are topless, but after a while, you don't even notice it. You're looking at the decor is amazing, the theme of each number, the costuming, the headdresses, the bijou, and also the beauty of a woman's body, the femininity. It's just beautiful.
But it's essential for Michelle to keep in shape for her nightly appearances. If any dancer gains or loses too much weight, the Moulin Rouge can fire them.
They measure your bust, your waist, your hips, your thigh, and your knee when you first come in, and they weigh you and they take pictures. If someone abnormally gets larger or smaller, then they have something to back them up if they would like to get rid of somebody.
A night out for Michelle means preparing backstage for another show. She shares her cramped dressing room with another dancer from Russia. The girls get through an amazing 20 costume changes every night. Heavy stage makeup guarantees being noticed in the spotlight, but means sometimes even friends and relatives don't recognize her.
Getting better, progressing. I've heard many stories of people who work with each other saying hello to someone and then not realizing that they just spoke to them 5 minutes ago with the person having full makeup on and didn't realize it was them.
Behind the grease paint, famous faces like Liza Minnelli and Janet Jackson have in the past performed at the Moulin Rouge. And audiences have included kings and queens. A night out here is clearly fit for royalty. Across Paris, there's another night out involving sexy dance. Every week at the Coupole Ballroom, 300 people gather to revive a dance which, back in the 1920s, shocked polite society. It was the tango, a new and erotic style of dancing which had arrived from the dance halls of Argentina. Today, there's a new Latin American craze. Tango is back, but dressing 1920s style remains part of the fun. Tonight is a special occasion. Masters of the tango, Eduardo Arquimbo and Veronique Villarreal are in town. They've come here to demonstrate putting Argentinian passion into this dance. Together, the duo danced all over the world. Villarreal was once Arquimbo's pupil until he discovered she made the perfect partner.
I think that tango is a dance where the two dancers are the closest. They are forced to communicate with each other. That could be romantic or it could be something else, but you must be close. You can't tango without this, without total concentration.
Close physical contact, dancing cheek by cheek with legs entwined, has made the tango one of the world's best-loved dances. Now it's back. This almost certainly won't be the last tango in Paris. A night out, tripping the light fantastic, can happen just where you'd least expect it. In back streets outside Edinburgh is this old brewery. By day, they make beer, but by night, every 2 weeks, it has an amazing transformation. This is a céilí, a traditional Scottish dance. The word céilí means gathering. Originally, men and women would come down from the Scottish Highlands to tell stories, drink, and dance. Only those on the organizer's invitation list know about these ceilidhs, which started 4 years ago after a brewery party.
And you're doing the Grand Old Duke of York down for a count of 8.
People have become fed up with karaoke and disco and people playing, other people's songs like cover bands and whatever, and they want something different. And we're quite lucky in Scotland to have this kind of culture where there is a music of our own that people are now becoming less embarrassed about and are recognising it now and realising that it is actually fun. The secrets of ceilidh dancing are to have lots and lots of stamina, a great deal of enthusiasm and lashings of alcohol.
Just as well they're in a brewery. There's plenty of beer to go round as the merriment goes on into the wee small hours of the morning. After the break, places to spend the rest of a night out in Europe. How to stay in the bedroom once occupied by John Lennon and Yoko Ono. Or check into a room at a royal palace for just $30 a night. The world's best night out wouldn't be complete without a stay in one of the world's most famous, luxurious, or unusual hotels. Book the right suite in London's Park Lane Hilton at just $4,800 a night, and you too could find yourself with a bird's eye view of the Queen's private garden at Buckingham Palace. Just down the road is the Dorchester Hotel, favored by Sylvester Stallone and Michael Jackson. But over in Amsterdam, you can stay in a remarkable bit of history. It was in this room at the Amsterdam Hilton that back in 1969, John Lennon and Yoko Ono spent their honeymoon conducting a bed-in for world peace. With the hotel surrounded by journalists and adoring fans, John and Yoko stayed a whole week in bed and didn't once leave the room. They talked with an endless succession of guests, mostly press, to promote their anti-Vietnam War message of peace and love. Gerard DeWitt was the hotel concierge at the time.
It was 30 years ago he came in at night by a Rolls Royce, white Rolls Royce. And it was about between 11 and 12, and he went to bed. Very few people from the press was here, 4 or 5 people, that was all. But the next morning, it was circus. All those youngsters were here crying like hell. Lennon, Lennon, Lennon here in the front. Hundreds of children. And they like to go into the hotel to go to the room. My role was to keep the people downstairs. Otherwise, we have a mess upstairs. There were so many people. Only press people was possible to come. But you know how it is. There are always people who are sneaking in to get upstairs to see more of him and like to talk to him. But it was not allowed.
The hotel didn't appreciate rock and roll history in the making. They tore down John and Yoko's homemade art and threw it away.
When they left, the maid cleaned the room and take the pictures off and throw them in an ashtray. Put it away. Throw it away. That's unbelievable. There was so much money worth. Tja.
Although the room was cleared out at the time, the hotel has since had it redesigned to celebrate the bed-in. Yoko Ono was consulted on how it should look. The hotel's present manager, Roberto Payer, is a devoted Lennon enthusiast.
Even though that a lot of honeymooners are coming here, mostly it's always used as a memory of the 60s. It was a statement for us of the 60s. And what is very nice, there are a few items which are still here. When John was here, he would go and pick up the guitar, and he would go and sit on a block. And he would sit and play his music. That was the idea, going back to nature. This is the part of nature.
To stay in the John and Yoko suite costs around $1,000 a night. But at least these days, you don't have to be watched in bed by the world's press. And a night out in an Amsterdam hotel could be an even stranger experience. At the Winston Hotel, you don't just check into a room, you check into a work of art. Owner Frans Verlinden and his art director Andre Messman are inviting young artists to create a different design for every room in the hotel. So far, 27 have been done. And it all began with sponsorship from a condom manufacturer.
I wilde eerst dus de hele kamer doen. And this is the whole project of the art room started with. Durex sponsored this room. You know, this artist, he got a payment and Durex sponsored the material.
We like to confront the people here with art in a way that it's so unexpected. They just realize that they're in an artwork once they are here, once they are in their rooms. We like to be people to be amused or amazed.
Because sometimes there are guests coming, they pop in, they come from the street and they really don't know that we are an art hotel. And we thought art rooms, it's a hotel with a gallery, that the rooms were really transformed into pieces of art, little installations. Mostly they like the idea. They become very curious. Is it funny? Is it serious? Is it erotic? Is it, what can we expect? So they really grab the keys and they go then, in the room.
Not all the hotel's guests know what they're letting themselves in for. Deborah and Kirsten have booked an art room, but they won't be having a good night's sleep here.
I don't want to go back in there, actually. I think when you just come to Amsterdam, you're really tired. And you're like that, let's go to the hotel bedroom. Look at it! Look! That's when you wake up in the morning. That's not conducive to sleep, is it?
There is, for instance, a room, there is a huge puppet in the middle, and it frightens people. They say, okay, I don't like it. Can we have another room?
The girls are risking another try. This time, they've chosen the Heineken room, sponsored by Amsterdam's most famous brewery.
Oh, look, this is better.
This room, at least, is their style.
No, you see, this is not frightening. This is look okay, isn't it? It's a bit bizarre. It's actually quite good, because I like lager.
But what has to be Europe's most stylish place to stay the night isn't a hotel at all. It's a 500-year-old royal palace. And even more remarkably, it costs just $30 a night. This is Hampton Court on the outskirts of London. Henry VIII was the first king to live here in 1528. It has 1,000 rooms, magnificent gardens, and among them all, this elegant house, originally built for King George I.
What we have gathered is that it was built in 1718 and that it originally comprised a large, substantial two-story kitchen in the middle.
The house is rented out by the Landmark Trust, a charity which offers vacations at some of Britain's most historic and unusual houses.
I can guess that visitors are rather thrilled by the chance to stay in one of the really rather secreted and hidden parts of the palace. I think there's no doubt that there is a sense of privilege coming to stay at Hampton Court. One is treated like a king, perhaps, for a day or two.
But a night here can mean sharing your room with some less welcome guests. All 6 of Henry VIII's wives lived at the palace, and it's where one, Catherine Howard, is said to have committed adultery. Henry found out. Learning she was to lose her head, Catherine ran down the haunted gallery, screaming for mercy. It's claimed her ghost still haunts the palace.
On one occasion, I found the stubble on my face was standing on end, and I had shaved. Absolutely fantastic, cold experience. And I remember thinking, I wonder. And I glanced to this doorway to my left, this arched doorway, and there was a blue figure. I just glanced, and everyone does a second glance, and this seemed to melt into the wall. In true storybook style, I just couldn't believe what I was seeing.
A night staying here certainly wouldn't be dull. This hotel in Paris doesn't offer the night out you'd expect either. It looks like anywhere else. Guests often come to check in, but the Hotel du Nord is one big joke. Because it isn't a hotel, it's a comedy club. US comedians regularly play here, and the audience is largely expatriate. There are an astonishing 75,000 Americans living in Paris. Tonight, rising star of the stand-up circuit, Dave Faulkner, is center stage, and his routine includes the frustrations of trying to buy a croissant from a Parisian.
And one morning I was really hungry, and I went to this bakery to get something to eat, or as they call it, a patisserie. Which to me kind of sounds like I gotta dance with a guy when I get in the door. But I'm ready. I had my little phrase in my book. I was like, bonjour, monsieur, a croissant, s'il vous plaît. This guy looks at me and he goes, croissant? You know the place.
This night out is the idea of comedy impresario Carol Beer. In the 1960s, the Hotel du Nord actually was a famous hotel, but over the years it became run down. Rather than demolish it, the facade was kept, but the rest of the building became a bar and club.
Like, why do we have to learn a foreign language? I work there and I drink there.
A lot of the performers, when they're coming to do shows here, the first question they ask is whether they can stay in the venue. And a lot of people coming specifically to Paris who've heard about the stand-up comedy shows and say, oh, best of both worlds, we can see a stand-up comedy show and stay in the venue or in the hotel overnight. Of course, the Hotel du Nord hasn't been a hotel for about 30 years.
So it's like, yeah, croissant. He goes, croissant? Oh, yeah, croissant. He goes, croissant. And I swear to God, folks, there was a tray of 150 croissants right in front of him.
I could relate to a lot of what he said because I lived in Paris for a while, and the routine about the croissant and stuff just killed me. And
loved it, just loved it.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought it was really fabulous, and I enjoyed a little bit of American humor finding here in Paris.
And of course, this night out includes a useful lesson that'll help you buy breakfast next morning. Across Paris, this is the perfect night out for bookworms. Shakespeare & Company is open until midnight. It's the city's oldest bookstore, selling both old and new books, mainly in English. But this is also perhaps the best place of all to stay the night. Best because even though it's in the heart of the city, right opposite Notre Dame Cathedral, it's completely free. Under these dusty shelves, after the store is closed, you can sleep the night without paying a cent. American owner George Whitman put beds around his store as a way of helping young writers visiting the city.
We call it the Tumbleweed Hotel. I usually invite people for a week and see how they act, and maybe I prolong it then. But one man has been staying here for 5 years.
Kurt Bunch from Florida came to Paris 5 months ago to fulfill his dream of writing a novel. To begin with, he had a girlfriend in tow.
When I first arrived at Shakespeare & Company, she was with me, and George immediately said, marry her today and you have an apartment upstairs for a week. We didn't get married and we didn't stay upstairs, but that's how I met George, and he invited me to stay anyway. He had a very gruff voice. It was kind of scary almost.
Whitman has helped hundreds of aspiring writers in his time. He was friends with Ernest Hemingway, and Jackie Kennedy visited the store, leaving a signed picture as a memento. But she didn't stay the night. 9 beds are scattered between the shelves. During his stay, Bunch has slept in most of them.
The Russian section is the most comfortable bed to sleep in. They each have their own personality of sorts, according to their section. Like the art section is sort of cramped, and yet can provide really good dreams. But the Russian section is big and is good for doubling up, voluntarily, of course. And also a good place to discover people because it's right near the sink where everybody washes their teeth. But the romantic section upstairs is by far the most comfortable and the best to stay in, and the most coveted spot of all the Shakespeare & Company beds.
But there is a catch. Guests have to be out of the store during opening hours, make their own beds, and help with chores. Shakespeare & Company is just one of the astonishing range of best nights out in Europe, from the traditional to the futuristic, the shocking to the spine-chilling, and the amazing to the bizarre. These nights out really do have something for everyone.